Hi everyone, thank you for joining me. Today I have another of the Distress Oxide layering combinations. Now lots of you have asked some questions about whether this is similar to a previous series of mine. This time I am not blending the colours side by side, I am actually layering them, and I'm not layering them by blending. I'm layering them by using the smooshing technique, which is extremely quick, very easy to do, with unpredictable but very beautiful results. So we're going to be doing this today with aged mahogany because it's the second one alphabetically. I already have the first video up with abandoned coral. You'll be able to see that on the playlist. So let's get started with mixing some of these colours together and see what gorgeous results we can get. Now, as with the first video, the first two combinations I am going to do with our chosen colour going down first and adding some additional colours on top to get gorgeous blends. But on the second one, I'm going to add the colour last, and you'll be able to get more of a feel as we go through the series for how colours react when you start layering them, because I've had lots of other questions about the colours going muddy and such, and we're not going to actually get that with these because we are going to dry each layer. Now, I'm working on quite a large piece of cardstock, but I'm smooshing my oxide into the Tim Holtz. This is the Tonic Tim Holtz grip mat. This is a heat resistant mat, and it is linked in the description, so you'll find that there. I'm going to spritz a little water and press my cardstock in. Now, the watercolour cardstock that I am using is one that you'll find again linked in the description. It's called Gold Line, and this one is available on Amazon, so I've put the link to the UK Amazon site. Hopefully you'll be able to find it elsewhere too. And I'm just pressing with a little bit of water. I'm drying this, and then I'm going to do it again. So you can see there's still some excess on my mat. Now, the aged mahogany ink is a beautiful, I'd say a burgundy or a maroon colour. Absolutely stunning. If you go back to the previous video that I did, I explain a bit more about using more or less water when you're doing smooshing to get different looks. As you can see here, I use quite a bit of water, so I've got quite an overall watercolour blend. Now there's less on here. I'm going to get more of more detail, more texture, more of the little splats and blobs and dots there, bringing out, like I say, more texture in there. I absolutely love this smooshing technique for backgrounds anyway. I tend to end up filling the cardstock or the paper that I'm working on and then cut out the part that I want. But if you're doing a background, I would cut a panel that's slightly larger than I need, and then I would also cut that down when I've finished, depending on where the ink falls and what patterns are created within it. So you can see there we've got some beautiful detail. Now I'm just going to quickly do this a second time with this same colour on a second panel, just using the aged mahogany. So I am going to apply more ink to my mat first, spritz it again with water, and repeat exactly what I've just done to give myself two bases to start with. Now, as I've said before, whenever you do this, even if you use the exact same technique and the same level of ink and water, the same watercolour cardstock, you're still going to always end up with different results. These are quite similar. You can see this had a little more water on the base layer, so almost the full background is covered with a pale shade of the aged mahogany. This one, in fact, has some gaps, so obviously didn't put quite as much water on this one. That's fine. I like to go with the results and just play with them and experiment. I don't like to try and keep everything very much the same. So the first colour I'm going to mix this with is Picked Raspberry. So this is a very bright pink colour. If you've seen my Distress Oxide, ink and oxide colour combination videos, you'll notice we do go through each of the colours in the oxide range individually. That is linked in the description below, and you'll find it on my channel anyway. But Picked Raspberry is a very, very bright hot pink, absolutely beautiful, and you probably wouldn't think to actually mix it alongside this deep dark mahogany colour, but depending on the sort of background you're looking for, it does work very well. Now I've gone over with quite a lot of water there, so let's dry this. This has filled in quite a few of the gaps with this shade of pink, but as I'm drying this I can still see that those deeper darker mahogany tones coming through, and we're not necessarily looking to keep the original colour, so the aged mahogany. I'm not necessarily worried about keeping that colour, but it's about how the colours react together. So I've now got, because you do get some mixing of the colours, what's left on my mat isn't just the Picked Raspberry, but it's Picked Raspberry with a little bit of the aged mahogany in there as well, so it's a slightly dark red colour. So I'm just definitely going to use this for texture, picking this up, and that's really brightened and warmed up that colour absolutely beautifully. So let's just give this a dry, and as we know with oxide inks, there is a pigment to them. This pigment makes the ink look cloudy, particularly once it's dry, so you get that chalky effect overall, and it does tone down any colours. So what we will do at the end, we will have a much closer look at each one of these in detail. I'll bring it up really close to the camera, but that is stunning. That would be perfect for Valentine's maybe. Absolutely beautiful. So there is aged mahogany and picked raspberry. Now let's mix aged mahogany with brushed corduroy. So I'm going to wipe my mat and just clean off this excess, but I don't like to leave water on my mat because I don't want to press my ink pad into a wet surface and pick water up on them. So although they are water based, you do not want to be adding water to your ink pads, that will ruin them. So this is brushed corduroy. As you'll see if you go back and watch the previous series where we really look at the colour on its own, it is a brown, but it's very much a yellow brown. So as you can see, when I spritzed the water on it initially, there's quite a bit of yellow in there. So let's press this. If we just go gentle, first of all, can you see that beautiful, almost leather tan colour coming through? So pretty. So I'm just going to do some patches like that. I've actually got quite a blob there that I'm going to lift up with my kitchen towel. For me, that's a little bit too much. And you can do this. If you feel you've added a bit too much colour somewhere, you can lift it up with kitchen towel. And I'm going to just dry this off. Drying between the layers helps to prevent as much mixing and bleeding of the colours as possible. You will sometimes still get a little bit of mixing because the waters are water reactive. So when you're adding even a dry piece of ink soaked paper to something wet like your mat here, you're going to reinvigorate those inks that are on your paper. Okay, so you will get a small amount of reaction there. So now I've got my dots and my spots. Let's add a little more texture to this one. There's not so much in the way of colour down in this bottom corner. So I'm going more for the brown over here, but I love the warm tones of the mahogany underneath. It's absolutely gorgeous. Very much a different colour to the previous one you can see there with the picked raspberry. One day I'll have to use all of these backgrounds that we create. There's going to be 3 for every colour, so there'll be 146, is that right? 104, no, more than that, 216 swatches eventually when I've finished. So there we go, there's 2 already. You wouldn't even believe that these started with the aged mahogany. Okay, let's go a little bit darker this time, so not quite as bright. Let's bring in 3 colours. Again, let's wipe our mat clean. Make sure that the residue from the previous colours is off of that, because you will get that picked up otherwise. Although we can't see it necessarily on the grey mat, it could pick up onto the white cardstock. So this time, we're going to use the aged mahogany last. Now let's start with, shall we start with chipped sapphire? Let's start with a deep dark colour. Now I know that oxides will layer over each other quite well, really quite well. They do. They layer beautifully because of that pigment in them. But you also do have to be careful, because sometimes the colours you're trying to put on are just going over a colour that is far too dark, and it's really, really hard to get any sort of layering going on. So now chipped sapphire has a little bit of a purple colour to it, hence the sapphire colour, as you can see. So that already works with the red because you've got red in purple. So it's a warm blue. And you can see, hopefully as I'm drying that, you can see this touch of purple. It's not a royal blue, certainly not a green blue. It's definitely I can see bits of lilac in there. Okay, let's just dry these edges off. I really like to keep the shapes of the watermarks in there. And then let's go again with all these splatters that are less now, so not as many. We're going to really get some nice texture, as you can see. Absolutely beautiful. So going in with these, I tend to like to do most colours twice. Doesn't always happen. Let's do that edge, and let's do this corner a little bit. A little more, there we go. Now I'm leaving a strip at the bottom, which is where I use my hands, hold it with. So that's the reason I'm doing sort of 3/4 of each strip. So now you can really see the depth that you get, even just from one colour, just one colour alone, let alone start laying them up. Okay, so wipe this clean and dry it, and then let's go in with iced spruce. Now iced spruce is a grey green, and it is really going to tone down and add a lot of grey to the blue, which makes it then perfect for layering that red over the top. And hopefully then the red will be quite obvious, we'll be able to see it quite well. So can you see how this is toning down that blue with the green grey? Although green, of course, green and red will give us a brown shade, but it's worth experimenting and playing with these colours. There, so let's dry this off. I always find the first layer is more likely to be an overall watercolour type layer, and then the second one is the one where I'm building up the texture and getting all the little dots and drips really showing. So make sure this is fully dry. Sometimes it looks dry, but if the cardstock is still damp, you're still going to get quite a bit of smooshing and bleeding of the colours. And then once more, let's pick up some more of that grey green. So I'm starting to get some darker spots in there now. There's not a lot left on this mat that I can see, so there we go. Okay, and the last colour, of course, is going to be aged mahogany. We've pretty much filled this piece of watercolour cardstock here now, so I could then go ahead and cut flowers, hearts, strips from this. It would be beautiful for a card, a background, a journal page, something like that. So aged mahogany now. Make sure we've got plenty of this because it is our focal colour today. I'm going to not spritz too much water. What I'd like to do is actually get quite a lot of depth and colour to this layer, so less water. Oh yes, you can really see those blobs coming through, and then throughout the red, as you can see, the red is now the standout colour. It's now the focal point colour, and as I dry this, then you'll see the blues and the greens, the grey greens really peeking through. So much texture in here. Absolutely gorgeous. Should we go one more? One more layer, just to soak up this excess ink. I don't want to waste any. And again. And what I love about this technique, even though we're only using either 2 or 3 colours, is the multitude of other colours that actually come out when you look closely. So let me adjust the focus on the camera so we can have a look at these extremely closely. There we go. So let's look first of all at the pink. Isn't that just stunning? So many watermarks in there. You've got very pale pinks, very pale burgundy colours, the bright hot pink from the picked raspberry. That is so, so pretty. Then moving along to the next one, you've actually got, this was brushed corduroy with the aged mahogany underneath. You've actually got areas of brown in there, but also almost areas of green from the brushed corduroy. And then you've got that bright, bright orange that has come through as well. So really pretty. I think you see the brushed corduroy most in these top, what I call the top colours. That's the original brushed corduroy colour, but then where they've mixed just a little bit, you've got these gorgeous warm oranges. And then lastly, the 3 colours we've used has really made this almost a purple colour. So you've got the blue underneath, we've toned it down with a little bit of the green, and then we've got the red over the top. But any one of them would make a beautiful background piece. You could die cut some stunning florals or leaves from them. This would be amazing for autumnal leaves. You've got so much choice for those colours alone. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of the series. This is Aged Mahogany, so it's the second video. You'll find the abandoned coral video, the first one, in the playlist. And like I say, I will make sure it's linked down below for you. And if you enjoyed this, please do give me a thumbs up on the video. And I'd love it if you could subscribe to my channel too and join the thousands of others who like to watch these videos as often as they are published, which hopefully will be a couple of them a week until we've completed the whole 72 videos. So thank you everybody, take care, and I'll speak to you soon.